The U.S. is reportedly weighing a ban on TikTok. In a Fox News interview, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that the administration is looking into cracking down on TikTok and other Chinese-owned social media apps. Here's what he had to say.
With respect to Chinese apps on people's cell phones, I can assure you the United States will get this one right too, Laura. I don't want to get out in front of the president, but it's something we're looking at.
Would you recommend that people download that app on their phones tonight, tomorrow, anytime currently?
Only if you want your private information in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party.
All right, so we're going to bring in Dan Patterson to talk a little bit more about this. Dan, you're a CNET producer. I should point out that TikTok has an American CEO, and that American CEO said in a statement that TikTok has never provided any user data to the Chinese government. But let's talk a little bit more about TikTok. It's a wildly popular Chinese-owned social media app that is now increasingly sort of pivoting towards politics. It used to kind of be, I don't know, teenagers doing like cute little dances, and it still is. But can you just sort of talk to us about the evolution of the app?
Yeah, so let's start in 2012. TikTok was founded, like you said, Anne-Marie, as kind of an entertainment-focused app. It's based in Beijing, and it's used for lip-syncing and making humor content, fun stuff, undeniably fun stuff. But they kind of sputtered along until 2018, where they merged with a company called Musical.ly. Musical.ly was kind of focused on similar stuff, entertainment, music, and they're a US-based company. After that, TikTok took off. And that is undeniable. They are now, ByteDance, the company's owner, is now the world's most valuable startup, according to CNBC, at a valuation of $105 to $110 million. So this is not some plunky little startup. TikTok is a massive success story. The challenge is that underneath all of the entertaining, kind of superficial content, are these undercurrents, these waves of coordinated inauthentic activity, conspiracy theories, and other content that is easily defined as racist.
Yeah, I was reading how an old standby Pizzagate is resurfacing on TikTok. And then over the weekend, there was a group of sort of self-proclaimed right-wing militia that went to the Gettysburg National Military Park to protect a Civil War monument after they saw on TikTok that a protest was scheduled to be there. That turned out to be absolutely not true. And Dan, this reminds me of the kind of stuff that was happening with Facebook during the 2016 election.
Yeah, so a lot of the trends that we see happening on TikTok are not new. In fact, any hot social media platform will have to contend with these behaviors that we call coordinated inauthentic activity. That's where you have actors who really want to sow discord, amplify some of these more racist or homophobic or types of problematic behavior. We say racist because we see stuff like the use of the word keck, which is a derogatory phrase, along with Pepe the Frog and other memes that target Jews and other minorities. So we see this type of stuff amplified in and the New York Times, in addition to our own Times, indicated that there were more than 80 million views of that Pizzagate. So it's not, again, some small startup with a small number of very active users. We're talking about one of the largest, most engaging social networks in the world with one of the youngest user bases.
So then what is TikTok doing about this? I mean, it's one thing, when you have an American company, they've been certainly facing a lot of pressure from Congress, facing the risk of regulation. But now you have a Chinese-owned company. Is TikTok addressing any of this?
Well, again, according to the New York Times, as well as our own reporting, I reach out to their spokespeople on a fairly regular basis. And TikTok does not actively moderate this type of content. It would be pretty hard for them to moderate it in a way that, in tech parlance, scales. They would have to do what Facebook, Twitter, and other companies have done in the last few years, which is hire human moderators in addition to machine learning or artificial intelligence algorithms kind of for stuff that is problematic. The challenge that we've seen with companies like Facebook, Twitter, and others is that, look, there's still a proliferation of really, really I don't want to say bad content in terms of editorial. I mean bad content in terms of it is targeted harassment. It is racism. It is doxing and stuff that actively harms people. We see threats directed at people. So we're not talking about, well, I just maybe object to content. We're talking about at large scale content that is directed at people and populations that might be vulnerable, and the companies themselves doing very little to moderate or slow down this content. In fact, according to our reporting, the New York Times reporting, and others, during a lot of these protests, including the Hong Kong protests, TikTok censored or appeared to censor some of the hashtags used by protesters. We saw similar behavior with COVID-19 and similar types of alleged censorship when it came to the Black Lives Matter protests. So it's challenging for them, of course, but we see behavior from these tech companies that is also pretty challenging.
So that we know, there's been a lot of talk about tech companies doing more. They always seem to be sort of lagging behind the request for some sort of control over this sort of thing. So give us some news we can use, Dan. Give us some tools, because inevitably we're just 4 months away from this election. People get a lot of their political information on social media, and a lot of it is accurate and part of a worthwhile conversation, but how do you identify the stuff that's misinformation?
Look, the one thing that you should know going into the 2020 election is that if you use social media, and who doesn't these days, it is critical infrastructure in terms of communication. You will encounter coordinated, inauthentic activity. We could call this propaganda, but stuff that is designed to manipulate you in one way or another. Now, you might be willing to say, hey, that doesn't have any effect on me, but look, companies like Facebook, Google, Twitter, and others don't have multi-billion-dollar valuations because they're ineffective. These companies are incredibly effective at sending you messages that are primed to be what they call engaging. So the number one thing I would do is to slow down your use of social media and use it in a way that is thoughtful. Look, even when I ask experts the same thing that you asked me, Anne-Marie, what can we do about this? They tell us, look, it's really hard. We have to be thoughtful. We have to slow down. We cannot simply share everything. We can't retreat into these groups that only are filter bubbles and share things that we want to believe. We have to be calm and slow and exercise good judgment when it comes to the content we encounter on social media. That's not really a satisfying answer, I know, but that's kind of the challenge that we are encountering right now headed into this very contested election.
Yeah, but I think that's really valuable. I think people need to continue to get a greater understanding of how the platforms work, that there are businesses and there are algorithms, and, you may see an argument or a point of view come up over and over again on the platform that you use, and, repetition sometimes makes people believe that something is true and accurate, but actually that's just part of the algorithm. As you know, if you look up, beach vacations, chances are you're going to see a lot of stuff pop up on your social media platform talking about beach vacations. So if you Google, an imaginary protest happening in a park at a civil rights monument, chances are you're going to be fed more information along those lines. People need to know that, right, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to understand that social media is a scaled communications platform and that there are people who want to manipulate you. And these algorithms are not magic boxes. They are, we can manipulate these. In fact, we have a term, almost everybody who has worked on the web has heard of SEO, search engine optimization. That's just trying to figure out and manipulate the Google search engine. The same thing exists for Facebook, Twitter, and others. And don't believe that people who want to manipulate you haven't also figured out those algorithms.
Yeah, that is the best advice you can give, and hopefully people take it and use it, Dan. Thank you so much.
Great to see you, Anne-Marie.